Well, welcome to Christian Answers. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural commentator. And today we're going to analyze an article from the BBC, British Broadcasting Company, the main voice of broadcasting in England right now. It's a state-owned media company, and it's probably the most authoritative voice in all of England as far as the news is concerned. And here they are making an announcement, treating this as if it's everyday occurrence. They're saying two women are announcing a pregnancy. So they're treating this partner, these two lesbians, as a married couple. They're talking to the public as if they are married, as if they are a legitimate couple, and that they're having a baby. That's basically what they're trying to communicate, as if to say they're normalizing the lesbian partnership and marriage idea, as if it's been around forever and it's just totally normal, and it's just a typical way to describe what's going on in their lives. And so they're trying to convince us, they're trying to convince you that you too should view what they're doing as normal and should accept it, even though it goes against the entire Judeo-Christian moral ethic, even though it goes against 2,000 plus years of the Christian church and the teachings of the Christian church, and cuts across and turns on its head the entire ethical and moral structure of the Western civilization. Nevertheless, we are supposed to believe the BBC that this is totally okay, this is totally normal, and if you want to be a modern citizen, you need to catch up in your thinking, because you're just thinking old-fashioned, you're old, crusty, cobwebs on your brain. You need to catch up with the 21st century. Well, I want to analyze this article because it's full of nonsense. And I remember back about 10 years ago, the term fake news came into being and became a phrase, fake news. And I want to say that this is fake news propaganda that's being pushed by the BBC, the authoritative voice of England, broadcasting the news to all of its citizens and also around the world, the BBC World Service and all of its networks. And this is just a form of mass propaganda to try to normalize the LGBTQ lifestyle, to try to say to people of all nations all over the world that this is now the wave of the future, and that we should get used to it, accept it, tolerate it, embrace it, celebrate it. But from a Christian viewpoint, this can never be celebrated, can never be tolerated, and can never be accepted. And so we should never, ever let ourselves think that this is real news, expressing reality before our eyes. No, this is fake news. This is not reality. This is a liberal la-la land where they can make up anything they want to make up in order to destroy the genuine biblical Christian ethic. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. But they don't come out and say, we're trying to destroy Christianity. They're not as plain and as clear as, say, the BLM, Black Lives Matter movement, which at the beginning posted on its website, one of the goals is to destroy the nuclear family. That is one of their goals, to destroy the Judeo-Christian nuclear family. And that could also be in the website and the planks in the platform of the LGBTQ movement, because they're also trying to destroy the Judeo-Christian ethic and replace it with do whatever you feel, do whatever you want, and make up anything that you want as long as you feel good about it. And so this is just another piece of propaganda. It's fake news, and we need to expose it. So here are these two soccer players. It says here, Christy Mewis and Sam Kerr played at the 2023 World Cup for U.S. and Australia, respectively. So these are two soccer players on different teams, and they are now in a relationship somewhat similar to what they want to pass it off as, similar to a marriage relationship between a man and a woman. We know as Christians that this can never be. You can call anything anything. You can call a friendship a partnership. You can call a partnership a marriage. You can call it whatever you want. And governments can actually call their lesbian relationship a marriage. And they can get a piece of paper that shows that the government calls it a marriage, but that doesn't make it real. And so whatever they think they're in and whatever they think they're doing, it's all fake news. It says Chelsea striker Sam Kerr and West Ham midfielder Christy Mewis are expecting a baby next year. Again, another item of fake news. No, they are not expecting a baby in the normal phrase, expecting a baby. When a man and a woman are married and they are a couple, and when they say we're expecting a baby, that means when it says we're expecting a baby, that means they are actually literally in reality expecting a baby, because the man has played a part in the pregnancy and the woman is playing an ongoing part in the pregnancy. She's carrying the pregnancy to full term and to birth. And so when a legitimate heterosexual male-female couple are saying we're expecting a baby, that means they are literally in reality expecting that baby, because they both had a part in the creation of that baby. That is not the case with this lesbian couple. And yet they want to use that same language. They want to copy it. They want to have a fake marriage, a fake relationship, a fake pregnancy. They want to use the same language, but they're using it in a fake and dishonest way, propagandistic way. And so they are not expecting a baby next year. One of the women, Christy Mewis, on the right here, or no, on the, who is the one that's expecting? Australian Captain Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. That's about the way it is with these couples. They are out there, you might say, in their own world. Australian couple Captain Kerr, 31, and 33-year-old Mewis announced the news on Kerr's Instagram account in a post which read, Mewis Kerr baby coming 2025. Again, fake news. Again, fake news. Mewis Kerr baby coming. No. When you normally have that announcement with the man and a woman, it makes perfect sense. It is describing an objective reality. When you have it with a lesbian couple like this, it is fake news. A baby is coming. One of the women is pregnant, but it wasn't because of the other person, and there wasn't any interaction as far as creation of the baby. So this is propaganda. Mewis is carrying the baby. Okay, so it is the woman on the left who is carrying the baby. And that means that someone, a male somewhere, got her pregnant. Whether it was through immoral sex, fornication, or whether it was through artificial insemination. And they don't go into details because this is part of the propaganda. You don't go into the details. You don't really dig into the details, because if you did, it would expose the whole sham marriage, relationship, partnership, the whole sham of the announcement. And if you get into details, then everything falls apart. So they don't really tell you how the baby was conceived. But we know for sure, guaranteed, it was not because these two got together and created a baby. Impossible. Biologically impossible. And it's against God's created order. And so it can never happen. A huge congratulations to Christy and her partner Sam, who have announced they are expecting their first child, West Ham said on Instagram. So her team, one of these soccer players, the women's team, announced, congratulations. And they are expecting their first child. Again, fake news. They are not expecting their first child in the normal way that you speak English. But we've seen this with the LGBTQ movement. Some of the people in the LGBTQ acronym want you to refer to them as they, their. Only one person, though, but they're to be referred as they or their. Even though that is totally ridiculous as far as grammar and the English language, and totally confusing to anyone who isn't looking right at them and saying, oh, wait, you're not a they, and you're not, and I don't have to use the word their to describe you. That's violating the rules of grammar. No mind, they are in their own la-la land, and they're trying to make it up as they go along. And this is more of the fake news propaganda that we see happening right here. And it says a huge congratulations. No, as Christians, we do not congratulate a perversion of God's created order. The marriage order is man and woman. In the beginning, God created them male, and then he created them female. Two sexes, two genders, male, female, man, woman. And those are the only two binary categories. And those are the only two binary categories that are allowed to marry. What is being called marriage today in the United States and most Western nations is a fake news sham. And it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says. It doesn't matter what the World Court says. It doesn't matter any of these things. Only thing that matters is what God says. And they say, well, we have a human right. And it's called gay marriage. No, it's not a right, because you have to have a source for your rights. You know, in our Declaration of Independence, it says all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator certain inalienable rights. So God endows us with certain inalienable rights. They're grounded in the divine reality. Well, gay marriage is not a right because it can't be grounded in God's divine reality. It's a bogus, false, fake right. It's fake news. Kerr is Australia's record goal setter and one of the country's biggest sporting idols. And that's a shame. That is a shame, because here is one of the biggest sports idols right here, Sam Kerr. She is one of the biggest sports idols in Australia, and she's spewing forth fake news and LGBTQ propaganda. So this is really harmful to the children growing up in such a confused and perverted society, where this sports hero in their country is now confusing the children and pushing this perverted propaganda on them. It's bad for the young people in our country and in Australia also. It's bad all around that a popular figure in sports in a huge country like Australia is now influencing generations to come with this fake news that she can, one, be in a real legitimate relationship with a woman, and that they can have a baby. They can't have a baby. They have to go through all kinds of artificial means to get one of them pregnant. And it's going to come from a man because that's the way God created it. So even though they would love it to be able to come from another woman, they would love for two women to get together and create a baby, but that is a biological impossibility. So the language they're using is trying to propagandize people into thinking, hey, well, this is our baby. We're expecting our first child. When in reality, no, you're just simply hired some man to impregnate one of you, and you're going to come at it in that fake, artificial way. And that is really a perversion of God's created order. This woman, she has won 5 consecutive Women's Super League titles, 3 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and Community Shield at Chelsea. She signed a 2-year contract in June, but has not played since January because of a knee ligament injury. Matthews, who has won 53 caps for the USA, joined West Ham from New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC in December. In March, Kerr pleaded not guilty after being charged with racially aggravated harassment of a police officer in London. She is scheduled to appear in February court. While Kerr and Mua's news received much support from well-wishers across the game, it has also prompted one fans group called Hateful Comments on social media. Okay, so their announcement of their so-called first child, which is fake news, received much support. This is, again, the sad reality that these lesbians are influencing a lot of people in the sporting world, especially the younger people, because they grow up thinking, oh, I guess it's okay for 2 women to get together and be a married partner or married couple. I guess that's okay. That's normal. That's just accepted. And so I guess that's what we're supposed to do. That's the propaganda. That's the negative influence that these lesbians in sports are having. But not all of the fans are happy. It says Chelsea Pride, an LGBTQ supporters group, condemned the comments in a statement posted on social media platform X. So, they're getting some criticism from their own group, the LGBTQ group. Homophobia has no place in football at Chelsea or in our society. So one of these 2 lesbians made some comments that were not well received by their own community. It's heartbreaking and infuriating to see social media flooded with hateful comments when we should be celebrating love, pride, and unity. Well, no, you don't celebrate sexual immorality. You don't celebrate sexual deviancy and perversion. And if you do celebrate those things on large numbers, if a lot of people start celebrating the LGBTQ sexual immorality and perversion, then you have a situation where in the Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah were judged by God, and fire fell from heaven and destroyed those cities. So is that what we want now in society, where we have everybody accept as normal sexual immorality and perversion of the lesbian LGBTQ type? And then do we want to have the judgment of God fall on our countries and on our Western culture? Is that what we're headed for? It certainly seems to be, because it doesn't seem to be enough that you point out that, hey, in reality, 2 women can't be married and 2 men can't be married. And any statement that that is marriage is fake news, and that the only reality is that a man and a woman can be married. Marriage is only between a man and a woman, and that is coming straight from the Creator in the Bible. And so anything other than a man and a woman being married is a fake marriage, and that's fake news. To say that now this married couple is having their own baby. They're not having their own baby. They're having to jump through all these medical hoops to make the appearance of being a normal couple, and they can't pull it off. But if our society accepts their lie and accepts their propaganda and buys into it, then judgment from God will come, because he will not put up with that kind of distortion and perversion in a basic institution in society, which is marriage. Marriage is one of the pillar and foundations of a society. You don't get any stronger depth than marriage. Marriage is actually before the political government institutions of a society. It comes before, if you look in the early chapters of Genesis, marriage, the man and a woman, Adam and Eve, brought together by God, that even came before government. It came before church. It came before education. It is a foundational rock upon which civilizations are built. And when you start chipping away at the God-given marriage institution, yes, you're headed for judgment. It could come in many different ways. It could come directly from God, like it did in Sodom and Gomorrah, where fire came from heaven and just basically burned up the whole cities. That could happen. In our day, that would probably come about, the fire from heaven could probably come about best by a nuclear explosion detonated over a major city, like we saw in Japan at the end of World War II. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we saw the fire come from the sky and destroyed the whole cities and all the people in the city. That could be a judgment from God, even though the instrumentation is from another nation like a China or a Russia or even a Iran that has nuclear capabilities when it does, or if it does. So that could become a reality if we don't turn back and repent of our attack on marriage and also attack on the basic foundations of manhood and womanhood, because you're confusing genders, you're confusing sex, you're confusing young people, and you're confusing the entire society. And when that happens, again, that is cause for judgment from God. So you both have an attack on marriage and you have an attack on personhood of men and women. And it's just a matter of time before God sends his judgment. Now, he could send it directly, like I mentioned, or indirectly. He could bypass all man-made mechanisms and simply destroy the nations that are involved in this, which is pretty much all the Western nations, including the United States and Australia and England and Germany and France, and you just go down the list. They're almost all jumped on board to this LGBTQ bandwagon, and they're all teetering on the brink of judgment coming from God. He could do it directly from heaven, total destruction, doesn't need secondary causes, but he could bring secondary causes. He could bring a World War III where there's constant fighting all over the world. He could bring about a COVID-19 pandemic, plague that is a lot deadlier. He could bring about natural forces, meteorites that crash, like the one they think landed in the Yucatan Peninsula thousands and thousands of years ago that destroyed almost all of life on the planet Earth. He could do something like that. Gamma ray bursts from outer space. So many different natural ways that he could bring judgment. And that's what we're headed for if we don't make a U-turn and repent of all of this. So this LGBTQ group is mad. It says, it's heartbreaking and infuriating to see social media flooded with hateful comments when we should be celebrating love, pride, and unity. That's what the group says. The group said Chelsea had been forced to shut down comments and even delete posts, and added, we refuse to stand by in silence. At Chelsea Pride, we stand against every act of homophobia with unwavering strength and passion. Okay, so they're trying to prop up the LGBTQ propaganda. They're trying to get everyone to buy into this fantasy of you don't need to be a man, you don't need to be a woman to be married. You can be a man and a woman and a woman. You can be anything you want. You can call yourself anything you want. You can identify as anything you want. And by your identifying with that, you make it so. Well, newsflash, that isn't the way reality works. You can say you're something all day long, but unless you really are that something, it's all a lie. It's all a fake news, false propagandistic lie. We fight for football world. Every player, fan, and family can live openly and celebrate it without fear or prejudice. Okay, that sounds nice, but if you're basing that propaganda on a lie, then it all collapses. And they are doing that with these two women soccer players, these lesbian soccer players. The truth is, they are not having a baby. One of them is pregnant from a man. There always has to be a man for a pregnancy, and there always has to be a woman to make a baby. You cannot make a baby with two women. So this whole lie, this whole sham, this whole scam is being run, and it's being promoted by BBC News. But it's also, you could say, it's also being promoted by ABC News in the United States. You could also say that it's being promoted by NBC News, CBS News, PBS, Public Broadcasting, NPR, National Public Radio. It's being promoted by MSNBC, CNN, all over the media. The mainstream media is pushing this propaganda. And here is one of the biggest news outlets in the whole world, BBC, and BBC World News all over the world, and they're pushing the LGBTQ propaganda. But we need to, as Christians, stand up and say, no, this is not true. You can call it gay marriage all you want. It's not marriage. It's a fake marriage. It's a false marriage. It's illegitimate. Can never happen. And you can say that they are expecting, but they're not expecting a baby. One of them is pregnant and is expecting a child through an unnamed man. Again, hiding the reality that's in plain sight. These two did not create a baby. They did not, out of a loving marriage, like they're trying to say, or a partnership, create a baby. They didn't. They're trying to use the language of reality of a real marriage, in a real relationship, in a real pregnancy. They're trying to use that same language in their perverted relationship. And we as Christians need to point this out and say, no, we're not going to play that game. We're not going to buy into your delusion. We're not going to join into your fantasy of a rainbow LGBTQ reality. We're going to teach our children the truth, the biological truth, and the biblical truth. We're going to speak in terms of reality. We're not going to call a person who identifies as they, them. We're not going to use those fake pronouns because those are based in a lie and propaganda. And we're going to ground ourselves in God's word, and we're going to ground ourselves in biological, scientific reality. And we're not going to be pushed or bullied into joining a false reality like these two women are trying to get people to do. So stay strong, use the right pronouns, use reality, and we will see you back next week on another program. God bless.